Every morning before the sun rose above the hills, an old man opened his front door. He bent down with great care and placed a small pair of worn children's shoes outside, always in exactly the same place. Then he quietly closed the door. The shoes remained there until sunset, every single day, for 15 years. The neighbors noticed. Visitors noticed. Even the mailman once asked, "Are you waiting for someone?" The old man only smiled and said nothing. Some believed the shoes belonged to a child who had died. Others thought the old man had lost his memory. They were all wrong, because those shoes were waiting for someone who was still alive. His name was Samuel. He lived alone in the little wooden house at the edge of the village. Every room was quiet. Every wall held memories. But nothing was more important than that small pair of shoes. Samuel never cleaned them, never repaired them, never replaced them. Even as the leather grew old and cracked, he protected them from the rain, as if they were the most valuable thing he owned. One afternoon, a little girl from next door stood watching him. She finally asked the question everyone else was afraid to ask. "Mr. Samuel, who are those shoes waiting for?" Samuel looked at the little shoes. A gentle smile appeared on his face. His eyes filled with memories. Then, almost in a whisper, he answered, "They belong to the bravest little boy I have ever known." The little girl looked around. "But where is he?" Samuel's smile slowly faded. He turned toward the old house, took a slow breath, and for the first time in many years he decided to tell the story. Many years earlier, Samuel was not an old man. He was a village school teacher. His life was simple. Every morning, he walked the same dusty road to the little school at the edge of the village. One rainy autumn day, a new student arrived. He was no older than 7, thin, quiet, and wearing a pair of old brown shoes that were much too big for his tiny feet. The other children laughed. Some whispered that his clothes were worn out. Others pointed at the holes in his shoes. But the little boy never complained. He simply smiled and thanked everyone, even those who laughed at him. His name was Noah. Every morning he arrived before everyone else, and every afternoon he was the last to leave. One evening Samuel followed him from a distance. The little boy didn't go home right away. Instead, he stopped at an old bridge. There he carefully removed his shoes, wrapped them inside a small cloth. Then he continued walking barefoot. Samuel couldn't understand. The road was covered with sharp stones. The ground was freezing cold. Yet Noah walked without a single complaint. The next morning Samuel gently asked, "Noah, why don't you wear your shoes all the way home?" The little boy looked down at the floor. Then with the smallest of smiles he answered, "If I wear them every step, they'll wear out. My mother worked for many months to buy them. I want them to last as long as possible." Samuel couldn't speak. He looked at those old shoes for a long time. In that moment he realized he wasn't teaching the little boy anything. The little boy was teaching him. As the months passed, Samuel and Noah became close. The little boy never asked for anything. If another child forgot lunch, Noah quietly shared his own. If someone fell behind, he stayed to help. He was the smallest in the class, but somehow he always carried the biggest heart. One cold winter morning, Noah didn't come to school. Neither did he the next day, or the day after. Samuel grew worried. After school he walked to the small cottage where Noah lived with his mother. The house was silent. Smoke no longer rose from the chimney. Samuel knocked softly. No answer. He knocked again. At last the door slowly opened. Noah's mother looked exhausted. Her face was pale. "I'm sorry, Noah can't come to school. He's been taking care of me." Samuel looked past her. There inside the tiny house, Noah was quietly placing another log into the fireplace. When he saw his teacher, he smiled, just as he always did. "I'm fine," he whispered. Samuel noticed the little boy's hands. They were red from the cold. His coat was far too thin for winter, and those same old brown shoes were now barely holding together. On the walk home, Samuel made up his mind. The next morning, he brought a brand new pair of children's shoes. He placed them gently on Noah's desk. The classroom became silent. Every child watched. Samuel smiled. "I think these belong to someone very special." Noah stared at the shoes. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, to everyone's surprise, he slowly pushed the box back. "I can't take them." Samuel looked at him in disbelief. "Why not?" The little boy lowered his eyes. "There are children who need them more than I do." At that moment, Samuel understood why those old shoes have become so precious. They were never just shoes. They were the measure of a beautiful heart. Winter grew colder. One morning, Noah arrived at school without his shoes. His feet were wrapped in old pieces of cloth. Samuel rushed toward him. "Noah, where are your shoes?" The little boy looked down. Then he smiled. "A family arrived in the village. They have a little boy younger than me. He had nothing, so I left my shoes at their door before sunrise." Samuel felt his heart grow heavy. Those old shoes were the only pair Noah owned. That afternoon, Samuel quietly went to the family's house. There outside the door stood the worn little shoes, carefully cleaned, carefully placed, as if someone had left a treasure. Samuel picked them up and held them against his chest. He couldn't stop the tears. A few weeks later, Noah and his mother left the village. No one knew where they went. Years passed. Samuel searched. Whenever he traveled, he asked about the little boy with the kindest heart he had ever known. But he never found him. Time turned Samuel's hair white. His classroom became silent. His students grew up. Yet every morning before sunrise, he still opened his front door and gently placed those little shoes outside. Not because he believed Noah would come to wear them again, but because every day they reminded him that kindness should never remain locked inside a house. One evening, the little girl who had asked about the shoes returned. She was older now. She looked at Samuel and quietly asked, "Do you still hope he'll come back?" Samuel smiled. "No. I hope someone else will see these shoes and remember that the world still needs people like Noah." Years later, after Samuel was gone, the little shoes were still placed outside that old door. Not by him, but by the little girl who had once asked the simplest question. Some stories don't survive because they are written in books. They survive because one kind heart inspires another. Before we close tonight's story, let me ask you one question. Who taught you the true meaning of kindness? If someone came to your mind, perhaps today is the perfect day to thank them. Until next time, keep your light alive.